picture this. You just got back from an afternoon walk.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. You walk into your kitchen, and there, resting on the cool tile floor, is a Bernese Mountain Dog.
It's just a classic, beautiful image.
Right. Heavy head resting on their paws, soft eyes just lazily following you around the room.
Yeah.
That huge, gorgeous, tricolored body stretched out, the thick coat absolutely perfect.
It's idyllic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To anyone just glancing over, everything about the scene says peace, contentment, and, perfect health.
But it's an illusion.
Right. Because if you actually know how to read the physical dashboard of a Bernese Mountain Dog, you know you are looking at a masterclass in stoicism.
It really is a profound illusion, because you look at that beautiful picture, but an experienced observer is looking way past the calm exterior.
They're looking for the details.
Right. They are noticing if that dog rose like just a fraction of a second slower than usual getting out of the car.
Wow. Just a fraction of a second.
Yeah. Or they're noting if one back leg was swinging just a millimeter differently on the walk. Or, if the panting after a mild stroll seemed a tiny bit more labored than the temperature actually warranted.
So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are cracking the code on how to read the quiet signals of a notoriously stoic, really heavily coated giant breed.
It's a vital skill.
It really is. Whether you own a massive dog right now or, you're thinking about getting one, or honestly, if you just want to learn how to decipher complex nonverbal systems without getting overwhelmed by a flood of information, this deep dive is going to completely reframe how you observe the world.
Definitely.
We're shifting from looking at the obvious to noticing what is hiding in plain sight.
Because reading a system that cannot speak to you, whether it's a dog or, an intricate piece of machinery or even a quiet friend, it requires a really specific kind of purposeful attention.
Right. You have to know what's normal first.
Exactly. You have to learn the baseline rhythm before you can spot the deviation. And with the Bernese Mountain Dog, that baseline is uniquely difficult to establish.
Because of their history, right?
Because of their history and their temperament, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because trying to read a Bernese Mountain Dog's pain level is basically like trying to read a poker face on a giant, fluffy bear.
That is a great way to put it.
I mean, the check engine light doesn't stay on. It just flickers for a millisecond. We are talking about an animal that is huge, gentle, and fundamentally built to endure.
Yeah, if we look at their origins in the Swiss Alps, these dogs were bred to be all-purpose farm dogs.
Working dogs.
Exactly. They pulled heavy milk carts, they drove cattle, they acted as watchdogs in, freezing temperatures.
Because they had to be tough.
Extremely tough. Evolution and selective breeding favored the ones who didn't complain. Because in the wild, or even on a really harsh working farm, showing weakness makes you vulnerable.
It's a survival thing.
Right. That stoicism is a brilliant survival mechanism. But in a modern domestic setting, it becomes a massive diagnostic hurdle.
Because they don't want to show weakness.
Yeah.
And they are incredibly eager to please you.
Well, they live for their people.
So they will push through a torn ligament or a terrible stomach ache just to bring you a toy or walk by your side.
Yeah.
Right up until their body physically just gives out.
Yes.
So if you were waiting for a Bernese to cry or whine to tell you something is broken, you were going to be waiting way too long.
Which brings us to the core philosophy of this entire deep dive. What's fascinating here is that this is not an exercise in fear.
We don't want to scare people.
No, not at all. The goal isn't to make this beautiful breed sound fragile or to have you live in a constant state of dread, just hovering over your dog waiting for disaster.
Right.
The philosophy is attention with purpose. We want to shift from anxious worry to the calm, informed observation of mechanical and behavioral patterns.
I love that. Attention with purpose.
Oh.
Let's start with their macroanatomy then. We know their massive size masks their discomfort, but what does that heavy physical frame actually cost them in day-to-day life?
It costs a lot.
I mean, just the sheer physics of carrying around 100 pounds of muscle and bone, that puts a massive demand on their joints every single day.
It really does. Because of that sheer mass, we see a huge spike in orthopedic vulnerabilities.
Like what?
Specifically hip and elbow dysplasia and general arthritis. The ball and socket joints simply endure a tremendous amount of mechanical shear force over their lifetime.
Wow.
But again, they hide the pain. You aren't usually going to see a dramatic three-legged limp screaming out that they have a bad hip.
So what are we looking for then?
You're looking for a general stiffness, a reluctance to get up from lying down on that cool tile floor.
Okay.
Or maybe they just walk to the bottom of the stairs, hesitate for 2 seconds, and then go up.
That brings up something I really want to highlight from our research. This specific movement they called the bunny hopping gait in the back legs.
The mechanics of the bunny hop are, well, they're fascinating and heartbreaking.
How did it work?
When a dog runs or walks fast and brings both hind legs forward at the exact same time like a rabbit, they are performing a mechanical workaround.
Because normal walking hurts.
Right. Independent flexion and extension of the hips hurts. So, by locking their pelvis and swinging both legs forward together, they transfer the mechanical load to their spine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they use momentum to save themselves from the localized joint pain in the hips.
It's a physical cheat code to avoid the pain receptor.
Exactly.
And I have to admit, if I saw a giant dog slowing down, hesitating at stairs, or getting a bit stiff, my first instinct would probably be, well, they are a giant breed, they have a short lifespan, they're just getting older.
A lot of people think that.
Right. It feels completely natural to just accept that.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, dismissing those changes as just getting older is one of the most dangerous assumptions an owner can make.
Right.
Yes, because aging itself is not a disease. Arthritis is a disease. Dysplasia is a structural defect.
That's a great distinction.
Right, so when you write off a mechanical workaround as just old age, it robs the dog of vital care. A veterinarian needs to evaluate that stiffness because they actually have tools to change the dog's reality.
Like what kind of tools?
They might use imaging to see the bone spurs. They can implement a targeted pain management protocol or prescribe physical rehab.
Or just the dog's weight, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Which makes me think, even an extra 5 pounds of fat on a dog with hip dysplasia, that has to be a massive amount of mechanical stress.
It acts as a force multiplier on the joint. It is incredibly damaging,
Right.
but that is precisely the issue. Your job as an owner isn't to diagnose the limp. You don't need to know if the cruciate ligament is tearing or if the hip joint is degrading.
You just have to notice it.
Exactly. Your job is just to notice the deviation in the pattern, the hesitation, the bunny hop, the stiffness, and report it accurately to the medical professional.
So that's the mechanical stress on the bones. But that huge body and that incredibly thick double coat bring another major physical vulnerability, don't they?
Oh, yes. Heat retention.
Right.
That beautiful double coat is a marvel of engineering, but it was designed for freezing alpine winters, not a humid August afternoon in the suburbs.
No kidding.
It acts as an incredibly efficient thermal insulator. So when you combine that insulation with their large body mass, the stakes rise dramatically in heat, humidity, and direct sun.
I really want to break down why humidity is the real killer here. Because dogs don't sweat through their skin like we do to cool off. They rely almost entirely on panting.
Exactly. Panting is a mechanism of evaporative cooling. As the dog breathes rapidly over their wet tongue and the lining of their lungs, the moisture evaporates.
It cools them down.
Right, it pulls heat out of the bloodstream. But in high humidity, the air is already saturated with moisture.
So the evaporation just stops.
It stops. It's like you trying to dry off with a towel while sitting inside a steam room.
Oh, that sounds awful. So they are panting harder and harder, but the physics of the cooling system have completely failed.
Yes. The internal temperature begins to spike catastrophically fast. And when a dog is overweight or out of shape, their heart is already working overtime.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It pushes their risk of heat stroke straight into the red zone,
Yeah.
and heat stroke destroys cellular proteins. It leads to organ failure in a matter of minutes.
Wow. So the signs of heat distress are completely non-negotiable.
Completely.
You're looking for heavy panting that doesn't settle, constantly seeking out shade, excessive thick drooling, confusion, weakness, or stumbling.
Yes, any of those.
If you see this, it is never a wait-and-see situation. It is an immediate medical emergency.
So we've seen how their macroanatomy, their heavy joints and thick coats, creates these external vulnerabilities, but that same macroanatomy creates a highly specific, invisible structural risk internally.
Right. Let's scale from the outside in. Starting with a condition that terrifies every single giant breed owner. Bloat.
Yeah, medically known as gastric dilatation volvulus, or GDV.
And because Bernese Mountain Dogs have deep, cavernous chests, this is a primary life-threatening concern.
Let's look at the mechanics of why that deep chest matters so much. In dogs with this specific anatomy, the stomach is somewhat suspended by ligaments inside the abdominal cavity.
Kind of hanging there.
Yeah, hanging almost like a hammock. So in cases of GDV, a cascading disaster occurs. First, the stomach fills rapidly with gas or food. That's the dilatation or the bloat.
But the bloat itself isn't the lethal part, right? It's
Yeah.
what happens next.
Right, it's the volvulus. Because the stomach is enlarged and suspended in that deep space, it becomes unstable. It can actually twist on its axis.
Oh my God.
Think of a heavy pendulum swinging or twisting a candy wrapper at both ends. The stomach flips, entirely sealing off the entry from the esophagus and the exit to the intestines.
So gas is literally trapped inside a sealed, twisting balloon.
Yes. And as that balloon expands, it pushes incredibly hard against the diaphragm, making it almost impossible for the dog to breathe.
That's terrifying.
It gets worse. The twisting physically pinches off the major blood vessels, returning blood to the heart.
Wow.
So the stomach tissue itself, and often the spleen, begins to die rapidly from lack of oxygen.
That is just horrific. The signs of this are something you absolutely have to have memorized.
Not a doubt.
The most glaring red flag is unproductive retching. The dog is pacing, heaving, and aggressively trying to vomit, but absolutely nothing is coming up because the entry is twisted shut.
Right, that's the classic sign.
You'll also see swollen, hard belly, severe restlessness, like they just cannot sit or lie down comfortably, heavy drooling, and eventually collapse.
Tissue necrosis, the death of the tissue, starts very, very quickly. Suspected QZV is an absolute emergency.
So you don't wait an hour to see if they settle down.
No, you don't try to give them a stomach remedy. You put them in the car and drive to the nearest surgical veterinary clinic immediately. Minutes dictate survival here.
And prevention is tricky, right?
Yeah.
But it basically centers around not letting that stomach become a heavy, swinging pendulum. You manage meal sizes, feeding 2 or 3 smaller meals rather than one massive bowl. You use slow feeder bowls to stop them from gulping air with their kibble.
Yes, and crucially, you enforce a strict resting period around meals.
Right. You do not feed a Bernese a huge meal and then immediately take them out for a strenuous game of fetch.
But it's really vital to accept that even with perfect prevention, the twist can still happen. That's why recognizing those subtle early signs, the pacing, the unproductive heaving, is your ultimate safety net.
Absolutely. Okay, now we need to transition from the macro level of giant stomachs and deep chests to the micro level vulnerabilities baked directly into their genetics.
The quietest internal threat of all.
Cancer, specifically histiocytic sarcoma.
Yeah. Transparency is always better than ignorance when dealing with genetics. Histiocytic sarcoma is an incredibly aggressive cancer, and unfortunately, the Bernese Mountain Dog is genetically predisposed to it.
To understand why it's so aggressive, we have to look at what it actually is. Our sources noted it originates in the histiocytes.
Right. Histiocytes are a type of immune cell. They are essentially the immune system's roaming sentinels.
Roaming sentinels?
Yeah, their entire biological job is to travel freely throughout the body's tissues, looking for foreign invaders to consume.
Which means when those specific roaming cells mutate and become cancerous, the cancer is automatically everywhere.
Exactly.
Because the cells are literally designed to cross boundaries and travel through the body.
It's devastating. And the warning signs of this are incredibly subtle, which circles back to our whole theme of stoicism.
What should people look for?
You are looking for new or rapidly growing lumps under the skin, unexplained weight loss, a real persistent drop in appetite.
Like not just skipping a single meal.
Right, a fundamental lack of interest in food. You might also see unexplained bleeding or a sudden lameness that doesn't resolve, indicating the cancer may have reached the bone.
I have to pause here because we're talking about a highly aggressive, traveling cancer and life-threatening stomach twisting.
It's heavy stuff.
It is. So what does this all mean? How does an owner hold all this information without treating their dog like a ticking time bomb? Because carrying that kind of daily dread sounds utterly exhausting.
This raises an important question about how we manage risk. Knowing about histiocytic sarcoma is strictly useful background information to inform your conversations with your veterinarian.
It's just background info.
It's not supposed to be a source of daily paranoia.
It's a bit like knowing your specific model of car has a known, documented issue with the transmission.
Right.
You don't grip the steering wheel terrified every single time you drive to the grocery store. But if the car starts shifting weirdly on the highway, you don't ignore it. You know exactly what to mention to the mechanic.
That is a perfect analogy. The key is understanding context. Not every lump on a dog is cancer.
Right.
As dogs age, they develop benign fatty tumors called lipomas or cysts, or they just get a weird bug bite.
Sure.
Not every tired day is a systemic crisis. Maybe the dog just ran too hard yesterday. But persistent, unresolving changes require checking rather than guessing.
Checking rather than guessing.
Exactly. That boundary line between checking and guessing is what keeps you sane.
Okay, so we have these massive internal and external threats. hidden by an incredibly thick coat, and a personality that actively tries to hide pain.
A tough combination.
Really tough. So how do you practically bypass those evolutionary defenses? How do you actually spot the clues day to day?
You turn the things you already have to do into diagnostic opportunities. The most powerful tool in your owner's diagnostic toolkit is grooming.
Grooming. I mean, you brush a Bernese because if you don't, your house will completely vanish under a layer of tricolored fur.
Sure.
But grooming is actually a full-body inspection disguised as a spa day.
It is, because you are getting your hands through that thick outer coat and down to the actual skin.
Right.
You aren't just brushing hair. You are calibrating your hands to the topographical map of your dog's body.
That is brilliant. You are establishing the baseline tactile map.
Hands-on brushing is how you find a lump while it is the size of a pea rather than the size of a golf ball. It's how you check for skin issues you would never see visually. Things like painful, tight mats pulling on the skin, localized bacterial infections called hot spots, or strange yeasty odors.
And you're doing ears and eyes too, I assume.
Yeah, you are checking the ears for discharge and looking into the eyes for sudden clagginess or squinting.
And because you map that topography weekly, the moment a new bump appears, your hands recognize the deviation instantly.
Exactly.
But the physical check is only half the toolkit. The other half is behavior. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yes.
Behavior is basically the dog's dashboard indicator light. A super affectionate dog suddenly wanting to be left alone is the equivalent of a glaring red siren.
Absolutely. Behavior and physical health are fundamentally intertwined. Pain is experienced as a behavior.
Pain is a behavior. That makes so much sense.
Right. In a breed like the Bernese, which is genetically wired to be deeply attached and people-oriented, an uncharacteristic shift in social interaction is a massive clinical indicator.
So if they become irritable, withdrawn, unusually clingy, or suddenly flinch when you touch a specific spot behind their ears that they used to love,
They aren't just being moody.
right, they're communicating vulnerability.
A dog that is in physical pain, a dog that is losing its vision, a dog experiencing cognitive decline, or even just having severe digestive cramps, will almost always show a behavioral shift weeks before a physical symptom becomes glaringly obvious.
Speaking of digestion, let's talk about the gastrointestinal system as an indicator.
Good idea.
You should be paying attention to prolonged recovery after walks, unusual coughing, and, well, monitoring their stool. Specifically, looking out for unusually dark, tarry stool.
Tarry stool is a very specific critical sign. It indicates digested blood.
Digested blood.
Yeah. If the blood is bright red, it's usually lower in the digestive tract. But if it's black and tarry, the bleeding is happening higher up in the stomach or small intestine, which points toward ulcers or serious internal issues.
I'll admit, if my dog has an upset stomach or loose stool for a day or two, my first instinct is to immediately switch them to a bland chicken and rice diet, or maybe try a different brand of kibble to see if it fixes the problem. But I shouldn't do that.
It is a very common mistake. When a dog has gastrointestinal distress, our human instinct is to tinker with the input.
Right, change the food.
We assume it's a food allergy. But if the underlying issue is actually a parasite, a developing illness, or a partial blockage, suddenly changing the diet introduces a massive new variable to the dog's microbiome.
Oh, I see.
It causes more inflammation, it masks the real problem, and makes it much harder for the veterinarian to isolate what's actually failing in the system.
That makes total sense. So we've gathered all this subtle data. We're mapping their skin for lumps. We are analyzing the physics of how they rise from the floor. We are monitoring their mood and their stool.
You're fully engaged.
Right. But what do we actually do with these patterns? Let's break down the protocol of care.
The protocol starts long before the dog ever gets sick. It starts proactively. If you are getting a Bernese puppy, you must demand transparency from the breeder. Ask for joint screening results, genetic testing, and historical data on longevity in the pedigree.
And once that dog is in your home, you have to become a meticulous archivist.
Yes.
You are tracking their weight, logging when a lump first appeared, and noting exactly when their behavior shifted. You can use an app, a notebook, or a spreadsheet.
Human memory is incredibly faulty, especially when we are emotionally stressed about our pets.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are sitting in the exam room and the vet asks, how long has he been hesitating at the stairs? And you have to guess, that isn't clinical data.
It's just a guess.
Right. But if you pull up your notes and say, the mild hesitation started 3 weeks ago, but he started fully bunny hopping on Tuesday, You have just given the vet an actionable timeline.
Which brings us to the ultimate psychological relief of this entire system, the call the vet list.
It's essential.
It removes all the guesswork. There's a specific list of triggers that mean you do not wait, you do not monitor, you do not Google it. You just call.
Clarity is your best defense against anxiety.
What's on the hardline list?
That hardline includes sudden mobility changes, the unproductive retching of GDV, any form of collapse, sudden unexplained weight loss, seizures, breathing difficulty, or pale gums.
Pale gums are really bad, right?
Pale white gums indicate a severe lack of red blood cells, internal bleeding, or cardiovascular shock. It's critical.
But the beauty of this system is that you aren't supposed to sit on the floor trying to figure out if pale gums mean anemia or a ruptured tumor.
No?
You just know it means go. You aren't supposed to biopsy the lump yourself. You are just supposed to know the lump is new.
Exactly. The veterinarian brings the pharmacology, they bring the diagnostic imaging, the surgical expertise, and the medical degrees.
But the owner brings the patterns.
Yes, the vet only sees the dog for 20 minutes every 6 months in a sterile room. You see the dog every single day in their natural environment.
Putting those two halves together, the owner's meticulous pattern recognition and the vet's medical intervention, is what truly protects this stoic breed.
It does.
Knowing exactly where that boundary line is empowers the owner. You aren't a helpless bystander hoping your dog stays healthy. You are an active participant in their longevity.
Beautifully said.
So, to pull all of this together, the Bernese Mountain Dog is famous for its deep, unwavering loyalty. They will push through their own pain just to sit by your side.
They really will.
What we've learned today is that the owner returns that immense loyalty not just by loving them, but by paying attention, not with anxiety, but with purposeful observation of their patterns, from the physics of how they rise off the kitchen floor to how they greet you at the door.
It's a beautiful reciprocal relationship. And, you know, it leaves me with a thought that I think extends far beyond just these incredible dogs. Yeah. Think about the nonverbal stoic giants in your own life.
I love where this is going.
Whether they're your pets or complex systems, uncomplaining projects you manage at your job, or even the quiet stoic people that you love.
Right.
When things look perfectly peaceful on the surface, are you paying close enough attention to their subtle patterns to notice when their baseline shifts?
Wow.
Because true, profound care isn't just reacting when the alarm bells finally ring. It's noticing the subtle change in the rhythm before the silence breaks.
That is an incredible question to leave on. Are we noticing the micro movements or just assuming everything is fine because the surface looks quiet? Next time you see a massive, gorgeous dog resting peacefully on a floor, you'll know exactly how much complex information is really hidden right there in plain sight. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep observing, keep questioning, and we will catch you on the next one.